So Paolo Banchero is not Jason. And in game 6, the Cavs are going to have to find a different way to try and slow him down. He had 39 points last night, 14 of 24, was 4 of 7 from 3, 7 of 8 from the line, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. And I know you wrote about that last night, but the Cavs throughout the entirety of the game did not adjust or change their coverage of Paolo a single bit. And he looked all the parts of a budding superstar last night against the Cleveland Cavaliers. What would you do if you're JB to try and slow him down in game 6?
Well, it goes back to, you talked about this before the series, that let him go. Let Paolo go. If he scores 50, he scores 50. And it's everyone else. You can't let everyone else beat you when he's getting everybody else involved. And it sort of feels like that's what they did. I was really impressed with him because it was on the road. That felt like the Paolo Banchero coming out party. Mm-hmm. And I wrote after the game, LeBron and KD and Steph, those guys are gone. And it just feels like a changing of the guard in the NBA this year, this postseason, with Anthony Edwards, SGA, and OKC. And Paolo's in that group for sure. He belongs in that tier. I liked him as a player. I thought he would be really, really good in time. He's better already than I thought he was in watching him in this series.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
The Carmelo Anthony comparisons, I think, are spot on. Looks with the headband, just the way that he moves on the floor, his ability to get to his shot. Yeah, just the ability to get to his shot whenever he wants. He's carrying this franchise. Like, he's carrying the whole team. And that was a really big – and it's funny because when I was watching that game last night, and I was watching Banchero sort of emerge and take that step, because I think last night was a big step for him. I thought back to 2015 NBA Finals, the Cavs-Warriors series. Cavs go up 2-1 at home. They win Game 3, 2-1 at home. And David Griffin, the Cavs GM at the time, was outside the locker room with his hands folded and his head down, shaking his head. And you would think he'd be elated, right? Like, you'd think he'd be like, we're up in the series. We don't have Kevin. We don't have Kyrie. And yet we're up in the series 2-1. And Griff was shaking his head, and he said, they figured it out, like Steph figured it out. And even in a loss, Steph's performance in Game 3 was a signal to the Cavs.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking about that moment last night watching Banchero, of like, he almost did it last night. And going home now for 6, if he can do it at home at 6, he's the best player in the series. Like, whether it's Donovan, whether it's the knee, or whatever it is, or whether even Donovan healthy, Paolo Banchero is the best player in the series. And when we rated the players, we drafted him prior to the series. You and I both put Donovan 1 and Banchero 2. Well, after seeing the first 5 games, Paolo Banchero is number 1 on my board. He's the best player in the series.
Yeah, he's been incredible. I stand by the fact that the Cavs' best defensive strategy is to let Paolo go one-on-one and just make damn near impossible jump shot after damn near impossible jump shot. Because you look last night, he had 40 points, 39. No one else scored more than 14.
I know.
And they didn't shoot particularly great from the floor. Franz missed a couple shots. He was 3 of 11. Jalen Suggs missed a couple open ones. He was 0 of 5 from 3, had some good looks. But you live with long twos over open threes, because once those guys we saw in games 3 and 4, once they make a few shots, the floodgates can open.
Yeah.
So I'm still stick to my original premise that the Cavs' best strategy is to let Paolo go one-on-one and take those long twos. However, I don't love the idea of just letting him see the exact same coverage every single time. Because eventually, just like a quarterback will figure out some sort of defensive scheme, Paolo understood exactly how the Cavs were guarding him, and he was able to get to the spots and get the shots that he wanted. I'm not setting doubles. I'm not necessarily trapping him, but I'm going to stunt. I'm going to show him a couple different help side looks just to make him think. And whether it takes him 1.5 seconds to figure out what the defense is doing on the backside, well, now he's starting his move with 6.5 seconds on the shot clock, not 8. And maybe he's not getting that extra dribble or that extra pump fake to draw the foul. So I'm not changing my overall philosophy that if Paolo wants to take 30 long twos with a hand in his face, that's how they're going to win. But I am going to at least adjust the coverage so it's not every time down the court the same thing copy and pasted time after time after time. I thought what the Cavs did in the fourth quarter, where they finally put Evan Mobley on Paolo Banchero, which they were able to do when they went to the 2 big set, ironically, by playing Marcus Morris, because they had to have Isaac Okoro guard him when Mobley was the only big on the court. Mobley had more success than anyone else guarding Paolo because at least on those tough jump shots, when he's shooting over Isaac Okoro, God bless Isaac's soul, he's doing literally everything in his power to try and slow him down, but he's giving up 5 inches and 45 pounds at minimum to Banchero. There's just only so much he can do. Right. Mobley, at least from a physical standpoint, can contest the shots in a way that make him alter the release of the ball. So I'm just going to adjust a little bit of the backside stuff just to make him think for half a second, Jason, and hopefully that throws him out of his rhythm. But I stand pat and firm on my initial philosophy and strategy going into this series, which is if Paolo's going to make 24 long twos, that's 48 points. It's better than letting other guys get hot from beyond the arc, which starts the avalanche that could become the Magic offense.
I should have told you this prior to, did you pull the last play by chance, the block, Mobley's block on Wagner? Do you have that?
Of course I do. I thought you'd never ask.
Because here's what's interesting to me. Paolo Banchero is your best player on the floor. He's got, at the time, 36 points. He didn't have the ball. He's setting the screen, and he's wide open at the three-point line. And Mobley and who was it? Both chase Strus. Right, Mobley and Strus both chase Wagner. Paolo is wide open for a three. He's the best player in the series. He's the hottest player on the floor. And coming off the miss at the Cavs end, one of the Magic players grabs the offensive rebound, flips it to Banchero, and he flips it to Franz. And I felt like, watching that back, it felt like, well, first of all, I think Orlando had a timeout, and they chose not to use it. So they let the play roll. And you're living and dying with Franz Wagner, a mid-tier player, taking the game-winning shot when you've got Paolo Banchero wide open at the three-point line. I'm just wondering, I'm curious, we haven't had a chance to talk about this. What did you think about the Magic's last set there and Wagner taking that shot? Obviously, Mobley gets the block on it, and Banchero really not even being involved in a game-winning play in the last seconds of the game.
All right, couple things. One, Orlando didn't call. I like not calling a timeout there for the record. I am very much in favor of not calling time.
I'm ambivalent on that. I see positives and negatives to both. If you've got a money play, if you've got a money go-to play, call a timeout.
Fair.
But if you don't have something that you love in that moment, then let them play.
So Orlando decided to go pick and roll with their two best players. At the end of the day, they got to pick and roll with their two best offensive players. Here you have Strus guarding Wagner. You have Mobley on Banchero. They set the screen, Jason, and to your point, they both go with Franz.
He has to see that. He has to feel that.
Okay, counterpoint. I don't disagree. But A, he's not looking that way. Time's running down, and he's thinking we need 2 points.
Yeah.
Franz gets a great look here. So we can complain, yeah, maybe you should have kicked it back to Paolo Banchero for a three. At the end of the day, and I'll pause it again, you have a 6'10 forward who's a pretty good finisher, Jason, with Mobley on your back now and no help side defense because Marcus Morris is not going to leave Wendell Carter Jr. right there. They got a good look. This is a unicorn defensive play from Evan Mobley, who blocks Franz with his left hand. Now, Franz uses his right hand. That's the mistake, Jason. Franz goes up with the right hand on the left side, which allows Evan Mobley to use his left hand to block the shot without fouling. So Franz, the finish was not there. But that's a pretty good look in a crunch time crisis situation. So I'm not going to flame and kill the Magic.
I'm not killing
one timeout. And I understand that Paolo's open, and in the screenshot, it looks worse than in reality. But right here,
the best player to have the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
Right here, like, yes, you could throw it over your head and you get Paolo, and then the Cavs have to rotate. I totally get the point. But I think at the end of the day, the Magic got a pretty damn good look.
They did.
And it was a unicorn defensive type play from Evan Mobley that saved this game from going to overtime rather than poor offensive execution.
I just didn't like Banchero really not being involved. I understand he's the screener, but I don't like him not really having the ball in his hands at the end of the game.
Also, as I'm watching this back 3 times, Jason, I wonder if the plan was for Banchero just to clear, because he floats back. Watch him set the screen. He doesn't roll. He floats back more pick and pop. But, Franz is going forward. Paolo's going.
It's a hard pass at that distance.
Yeah, Paolo's going back. That's a tough look to make. But at the end of the game, let's flip reversals, right? If Max Strus is the one taking the shot for the Cavs instead of giving it to Donovan or Darius, we're all pissed. So
No.
I do understand the counter, but I think the Magic got a good look at the end of the day. And if it wasn't for Evan Mobley being a freak of nature defensive unicorn,
They get
it's
the best.
probably 102, and the Cavs have a shot to send it to win it at regulation. If not, worst case, they go to overtime. So I can't kill him for that, but I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not killing him. I just want my best player, clearly the best player.
Yeah.
I want the ball in his hands. I want him making that decision at the end of the game. That's
Fair
all.
enough. Jason, we'll wrap in 1 second, but first, the home team has won all 5 games in this series. Game 6 is in Orlando. How much confidence do you have in this Cavs team to be able to pull off a win on the road? And should fans have confidence?
I think we're coming back for Game 7. I picked Cavs in 6 before the series, and watching the way Orlando fought last night, the way that Orlando on the road, a young, inexperienced team. Remember all that talk last year about the Cavs being that young, inexperienced team, and the Knicks tossed them in 5 games, and the Cavs just shriveled at Madison Square Garden. Well, Orlando shriveled a little bit in 1 and 2, and they grew up a lot last night in Game 4, and 5. And I just feel like going back and playing in front of their home crowd again, I think it's coming down to a Game 7 now.